Welcome to the MuseCast, where we squeeze every last drop of inspiration out of Sunday's sermon.
Dan Kent, those fingers are back. I missed you last week, friend.
Yeah.
Welcome back. But I should say, before I welcome you back, Dan Kent, let's welcome everyone else to the MuseCast. It's Tuesday. It's a glorious day. Dan Kent's back in the house. And Dan, I wanted to show you something. In honor of you being back with us this week, I got something I think you will appreciate. Are you ready?
Okay. All right. Hold on. You got to make a noise. You got one.
I got one. Do you see?
Wow.
So back, and it is so heavenly. Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
It's the best.
It really is.
The best.
I love it. And it goes pretty long, and I can fold it up, and comes in a cute little pouch.
Oh, I didn't get the pouch. I bought a 5-pack. Wow. So I've got one like in my truck. I've got one upstairs by my bed. I got one right here at my desk. It's just like it's the closest thing I have to a James Bond gadget because it's just so perfect. So
yes.
Well,
so
it's interesting.
Scratch my back. Scratch my back. Brought to you by the MuseCast.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It's interesting. What, Dan?
Well, it's interesting. You're welcoming me back, and you said, welcome back, friend, and you use that friend word, and it's just interesting that you would. And speaking of back scratchers and backstabbing, it's interesting that you would have my hero and my mentor on the show when I'm not here. And let me just paint the picture here, okay? We've been doing this show for 2.5 years. 2.5 years. And I have missed one episode. And during that one episode, you had Paul Eddy on. And I was not here for it. And I just got to say, that stings. That stings. And here's the thing, though. I'm not gonna hold a grudge, but I do have a planned guest for your next absence. So.
Oh dear, who's your planned guest? Is it gonna be a surprise?
Well, I gotta think it's gotta be somebody comparable to Paul Eddy, and I don't know your heroes well enough, but I know you're a basketball fan, and so I have.
Oh my gosh.
I have on speed dial. I have LeBron James on speed dial. So I'm just saying.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare. That would be amazing. No, Dan, you can look at this as one of two ways. You could look at it as you left me high and dry, so the best I could. No, I'm kidding. You did not. We knew you were going to be gone. 2, you could look at it as it took something grand and someone great to feel. I'm from the South, can you tell? To fill your absence. So,
well, that's very nice, and it was a great episode too, and you two had a great rapport, and I thought it was awesome. Isn't he great though? I mean, come on.
He is. We adore Paul. Yeah. Absolutely. I have a feeling, Dan, that Paul Eddy maybe ties quite a bit into your story of your connection with Woodland Hills. And it just so happens, I don't know if you know this, Dan, because you were gone. It just so happens that we celebrated our 30th anniversary, our 30th birthday, however you want to look at it. We're 30. We're dirty 30. And we had a great time celebrating on Sunday, and we heard a fun, inspirational, reflective message from Greg. Like I said, I have a feeling that your ties to Paul Eddy, I'm guessing, maybe have a part in you being a part of Woodland Hills. Am I right on that?
Yeah, well, absolutely, 100%. Also, I wanted to be there on Sunday. I got COVID, so
and I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah,
we follow HIPAA laws around here, Dan.
But since we're at home, so I in fact I'm still fighting it, so I might have to mute and cough every once in a while, but I'm coming out of it, I think. But I wanted to be there on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan would not, you guys have to know, Dan would not have missed this. for anything. And when he messaged us to say he's sick, we knew it had to be like he super wasn't feeling well. And also he was trying to protect other people. So that is why he wasn't there. And so today it's going to be a little bit different of a MuseCast. You're going to have to wait one more week for Dan's summary. I know you're wanting it after last week because I'm not good at that.
Oh, I thought it was great. No, you did great. In fact, I think you should do it every week. That's what I think. That's just me.
No, Dan can't. Nope, that is your baby. Today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna hold off on a summary, and we're just gonna have Dan share and I share just kind of how and why we're thankful for Woodland. Maybe a little bit about how we got to Woodland, so it'll be a little short and sweet. We need to let Dan get some rest too, so we're gonna do that, and then. Hey, when we are commenting later, feel free to share with us how you found us and what you're thankful for in the chat. That would be amazing. So tell us your Woodland Hills story, Dan.
Yeah, it's interesting. Paul, you were right about Paul Eddy, by the way. I was 1996. I was going to Bethel, and that's when I met Paul. And I kind of loosely knew Greg through Paul. And I was a student at Bethel, and they were both professors there at the same time. And I didn't take any classes with Greg because I heard he was a tough grader. So I wish I would have now, but then I needed good grades. So and then I fell in love with theology through Paul Eddy's teaching, and this is the church that he was involved in. And so I decided to check it out. And then in like 1997, 98, I kind of did a bunch of research because I lost a friend to cancer. And I did a bunch of research on open theism. And Greg was one of the proponents of open theism. And that sort of like, okay, that's the church I need to go to. And starting in like 2001, not only was I going there, but I was part of like I can't remember the name of the team, but it was some type of discipleship team, and we read Dallas Willard's The Divine Conspiracy together, and I think Paul was in that, and Greg and Sandra Unger and a few other people were in that group, and that was really fun. And then I started teaching just in the Cultivate. It wasn't called that then, but
right.
It's now Cultivate. I started teaching for, I've been teaching there for 20 years now. In fact, it's kind of fun. Like starting in 2012, I think, or 2011, I started doing this course on confident humility, which eventually became the book Confident Humility, which I have to know. I just want you to see this, Shawna. If you look at the opening of Confident Humility, you'll see that it's dedicated to Paul Eddy. I don't know if you noticed that. And who you had on as a guest last week without me.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah.
I didn't connect those dots.
Yeah. So.
Oh my goodness!
so
Dan,
fun.
We had him on last week, and he good stuff to say. You should check him out sometime.
Yeah, right. You're a riot. So yeah, but you're right. It was and so yeah, then the book came out of it, and so yeah, I've been apart for a long time, and Paul Eddy was sort of my in, and what a blessing it's been. I mean, it's hard to like explain. Maybe you'll do a better job than me, but it's hard to explain the role that a church can have in your own faith walk and in your own development as a person, and how you process what's going on in the world around you, how you process your own emotions and your relationships. And we take it for granted, I think, because we're a part of it. But when you step back and look at it, wow, what an important cog in the machine. What an important part of the story. So yeah, how about you? Like, I have no idea how you became involved with Woodland Hills, so I'm excited to hear about that.
A stork brought me. No, it's I actually, my entry into Woodland Hills was via my husband, Scott. So as you know, both Scott and I are from Texas, and we were sorry, I just covered my mouth while I was talking. That's not good to do. Scott and I are both from Texas, and we were both ministering at our home church back there. At the time, Scott was a part of this Christian publication organization called Touch Outreach Ministries, that they specialized in house church, what was called cell groups at the time. And Scott, as an author for them and as a consultant for them, would travel around to different churches to help with, let's just say, small groups, community groups, cell groups, house church stuff. Different churches call it different things. And Woodland Hills was actually one of the churches that he would consult with. And so he had developed a relationship with some of the staff at Woodland, and of course had read Greg and had a really high respect for Greg and Paul as he continued to meet different staff members and things, and just really, really loved the vision of Woodland Hills, just loved the people of Woodland Hills, but I knew nothing about them. So he would come up, and he had come up a few times just to work with them. And there was just like this little running joke with some of the staff about, well, when you guys move up here, and Scott's like, my wife would never, like, you don't understand how much she hates the cold. She would never. And let me say, until we visited Minnesota, I had never been north of Oklahoma. So I was just not going to venture north at all. I know. What?
Huh.
So sheltered. So sheltered was I. But anyway, long story short, some changes within the staff occurred, someone leaving to go on missions and blah, blah, blah. And they wanted Scott to come up and fill the role to oversee what was the small group ministry. We'll just call it that at the time. And that was in 2005. We had two of our sons then. Declan was like just barely 2, and Gavin was like 4 months old. And I remember Greg called Scott and said, hey, can we just talk about this possibility of you guys coming up here? And let's talk about it. And Scott's like, you'd have to talk to my wife. And so I get on the phone. I don't know who the heck Greg Boyd is. And he's like, hey, let's dance. Like, come on up. Let's just see what happens. See what God's up to. And I'm like, this dude is crazy, but I'll go. Sure, whatever. Not going to happen, but I'll go. But, when we came up and met folks, it just became very clear that this was going to be not only a good thing, but a really God thing and a safe place, like for our family, and just to because that's scary, just to pick up everything and move all the way north. That was super scary for me as a young new mom. But I don't know, it just felt right. And I remember at the time, I had just come off of a long, let's just say a decade of ministry and working in the church. And then, like I said, being a new mom, and I was really in a season of being burnt out and tired. And I remember saying to Scott, I just want to go and sit. I just want to be a wallflower. I just want to be anonymous. I just want to disappear and just, sit and learn and just, be a mom. And that happened for about 3 months until 8 months staff. And yeah, it's just been a wild ride. And we can talk, and I would love to hear from you too, like what Woodland Hills has meant to us personally and professionally. I can say it has been the most fulfilling work that I've been a part of. Like our team and our vision and just our heart for the community and for those around the globe. It is just powerful. And it's very, very fulfilling. And then personally, it did, like being at Woodland, I think the reason why it only took me 3 months before I felt comfortable to dive back in was because I felt safe, and I did feel like I got some restoration to my soul and to my heart. And, the circumstances by which I came to work at Woodland, those weren't great, because we had a staff person who had a medical emergency, and they were just trying to fill some gaps and just to kind of keep things moving in his absence. So I started out in a temporary role, and then became a permanent part of staff, and have moved around a couple of different areas to where I am now, which I love. But it has been so healing. And, picture of God stuff, like mind-blowing paradigm shift. I was talking with someone yesterday from Jesus Collective, and I was just saying, I don't know that I necessarily had to go through deconstruction, but I definitely needed my paradigm shifted a bit as to who God is fully revealed in Christ, and what that means for me as a kingdom person, and how I live my life, and how I love others. And so it has just been wonderful. I'm so happy and so blessed by the ministry that I've received, that my family has received, but also what we get to be a part of, and giving out to the community and those around us.
Yeah. No, I think that's really well said. It is, it's weird because like my integration into Woodland Hills as a person on staff was a lot less dramatic than yours. I feel like I was always like a fly in the room, and like I was just always there. And I was never paid. It was never official in any official capacity. But I was always there. So like when the idea of me just being on staff arose, it was like I mean, there's some obligations that I had as a staff member now, but like I didn't have to learn a new culture and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, I knew a lot of the people already, and it was pretty easy for me. So
Yeah.
But it's weird because you use the word deconstruction, and it just made me think, because I was saved when I was 16, I think, but like I had some pretty serious questions, and as soon as I graduated high school, I sort of fell in love with learning and got into C.S. Lewis, and that got me into theology, which got me to Paul Eddy. But I was always trying to resolve these issues, and I was always trying to wrestle through these problems, and so for me, I never had like an idea about God that needed to be broken down and reformed. I was always in this state of trying to uncover what God was like. And Woodland Hills has been so profound in that because, well, I mean, I think that either Greg is a genius or Greg and I are both silly in the same way, because I think he's got such great insights about God. And Paul Eddy, as a sort of if you think of him like gin and tonic or peanut butter and jelly, he's such a great contrast, because what Paul gives you is he just gives you this incredible like full scope picture of what all of the kind of intellectual options are on any given issue. And it really kind of helps you kind of work through like what you're thinking about, and how you're understanding God, and how you could understand God, and what the trade-offs of that would be. And I just think that that's all so important. And then it kind of lays the groundwork for some of the stuff that Greg talks about, which is imagining imagining God, and how we picture God, how we imagine God. And the two, Eddie and Boyd together, I just think they complement each other so well like that. And
Yeah.
and I just thinking about like what a profound blessing it's been to develop a picture of God and try to uncover what God is like, and try to find Jesus. The New Testament says that Jesus appeared to the disciples, which means that he was there the whole time, but he just wasn't seen, and then all of a sudden he appeared. And that's the way I feel like Jesus is here, and God is here, and he appears to us in kind of like these progressive ways as we continue to seek. And the Bible tells us over and over and over again, seek the Lord like a treasure. Seek the Lord and he will be found by you. And the Lord is looking down for people who are looking up. And there's this emphasis that like finding God, it requires this seeking and this pursuit. And what a blessing it is to have in your pursuit a place like Woodland Hills, where it's okay to ask questions, it's okay to have doubts, and you've got like these really intelligent guides to give you the scope of options and to help you go deep on some of these really crucial issues. And I guess that's sort of when I just off the cuff think of what Woodland Hills has done, that's the first thing that comes to mind is just that presence on my journey in seeking God.
That is awesome, Dan. That is really well said. I think that's a great place to segue into nugget time. And for nugget time, I would just like for each of us to share, like, if you're out there and you're like, I don't know why you would be watching the MuseCast if you're not already connected to Woodland in some way, shape, or form. But maybe you are. Maybe you just stumbled upon this podcast or the show via YouTube. I don't know. Maybe you have someone that you are trying to get connected to Woodland Hills or whatever. Ultimately, we want you to be connected to Jesus, yes. But if Woodland Hills is a part of that vehicle, yay. And so I would just love for us to share. You're so good at pitches, Dan. So let's just share our pitch. Sounds sacrilegious. We're going to share our pitch for Woodland. But that's what I want us to do. I want us just to say again, like, as to put a bow on it, like, what is something unique that you feel like God is doing? God is at work all over the world, all over the globe. We know that. But what is something that we feel uniquely called to be in our little space? And we would love for your folks to join in on that. That's going to be our nugget.
Yeah, I that's a good question. I think well, I boy, there's so many. I mean, there really is. The one thing I would say is that we want to be a place, I think, we are a place, and I would like to see us continue to be this type of place where people can seek God in an authentic way, because that means that you can have doubts and you can wrestle with things, and you can be among brothers and sisters. You don't have to agree on everything. When you put Jesus in the center, if we can agree on that, it really kind of gives you a lot of breathing space on some of these other issues, because not only are the theological issues tough, but so are the biblical interpretation issues. Those are tough also. And not only are those tough, but the life that we're called to live is not easy. And life itself is not easy. And there are so many different challenges in relationships and careers, in world wars and climate change and famine and the economy. And there's so many things happening. And there's so many obstacles to faithfulness for God and finding God. And so we need each other, but we're never going to maintain that togetherness if we separate over every little disagreement. And so having a place where it's okay to be in process together, I think is just so foundational. And Woodland Hills historically has been that place where you can disagree and still, with Jesus at the center, still worship together and still seek together. And I thank God for that, and I hope we continue that down that path. How about you? What do you think?
Yeah, Dan, it's so funny because you and I never discuss our nuggets beforehand. We just, sometimes we come up with them during the show, right? So
I had no idea we were even doing a nugget today because it was a special episode.
It was a special episode. So this is a special nugget. And I say all that to say my nugget is very similar to yours. I really believe that, and we're celebrating Woodland Hills, so I think it's okay to like shine a spotlight on this place that we love. I think that's okay for today. But I do believe that this is a place where you will find belonging regardless of where you are in your journey, because we are all on a journey. Like, none of us have arrived. Yes, we have amazing theologians and teachers. We've got one right here. We've got Greg, we've got Paul, and we have many others. We have women who we learn from. We have younger folks that we learn from, older, like we are rich in knowledge and theology and teaching, but none of us have arrived. Not only are we rich in those things, but we're really rich in our desire. And I think that's why it's our tagline, to learn, to love together. And we're always seeking, like, how can we show up in this space in the most loving way? And I love that about us. And that means that you have a place in this community. And I think that's really beautiful. And ultimately, I think it's just so precious that we are not afraid of questions. We're not afraid of where you are in your process, on your journey, what questions you have, what you're wrestling with, what pushback you have. We're not afraid of that because we know God's not afraid of that. And so I love the fact that we can wrestle together, but ultimately, like Dan said, we have Jesus at the center. And that's like our agreed upon foundation. And from there, we figure stuff out together, but we're still walking alongside one another. Yeah. And I just think that is so cool. It is so precious. And I absolutely love that about our family, if dare I say that word.
That's good.
So happy birthday, happy anniversary, Woodland Hills. Dan, thank you for being a part of it for so long. What a blessing you've been.
Oh, thank you.
Well, super and you appreciate too. You, sir.
And, you know, it's kind of fun too, like being on staff. You know, you just get to know people that you like. I didn't know you hardly at all before I came on staff. I mean, I knew of you, I just didn't really know you. And so, and that's, you know, that's the challenge of a place like Woodland Hills, is there's so many people there. But yeah, we have so many options to connect, cultivate groups, gathering groups, stuff like that as well. And and that used to bother me, that you know, like there were people at this church that I didn't know, you know. But I it doesn't really bother me anymore, because I just think that I just know too many people who have made really beautiful connections and relationships at the church. And I don't know what else to do with the size, but yeah, I don't know. That's sort of all on the side, but all that to say that it's been really great to get to know you better as well, on top of everything else. So
yeah, thanks, Dan. And thank you guys for tuning in. Hey, you guys are a part of this magical thing that we've been talking about. So thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for, like I say every time, your engagement. Thank you for tuning in and listening to us, you know, just say what we say. We don't usually have a plan. And so we just are sharing our hearts with you. Thank you for receiving that. And let's talk about it. What are you thankful for? What brought you to Woodland? Because we're so glad that you're here, and we just say, keep coming back. You guys, we head back into our series. And so we invite you to continue to tune in on Sundays for those services, and then circle back, because Dan and I will be here, and we will continue that conversation and dig a little deeper. Thanks so much for being a part of the MuseCast. We super appreciate you all.
Yep. Sounds good. See you guys. I might not be there at 4:00. I'm going to bed right now, and but I will see you all next week if I don't see you today at 4.
Absolutely. Get better, Dan.
Thanks, you guys.